heard first from the prosecution, a prosecutor named Emily Johnson, who very dramatically at the beginning of her statement turned around, pointed at Sean Combs and said, "This is Sean Combs." She told jurors that even though he's had this very big, successful career, he really behind the scenes has committed 20 years of crimes that include kidnapping, arson, and sex trafficking. And then we heard from defense lawyer Tenny Garagos, who really sought to humanize her client, Mr. Combs. She did own up to some failings in Mr. Combs' past. She said he has a bad temper, especially when he is intoxicated, and she said that he basically has committed domestic violence. But a big argument that she made to the jurors is that he's not charged with domestic violence, and domestic violence is not sex trafficking, she said. It's not racketeering. Then we had two witnesses today, starting with a man who was a security employee at a hotel, in which this very famous video appearing to show Mr. Combs assaulting his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway took place. And then we heard from a man named Daniel Phillip. He basically started engaging in sex acts with Cassie Ventura that Mr. Combs would watch and sometimes sort of participate in. They continued to do that basically until he was no longer comfortable and able to do it because he said he saw Mr. Combs violently attack Cassie Ventura, and that changed his feelings about the entire situation.
Cassie Ventura Fine is a key witness in the case against Sean Diddy Combs. The Me and You singer is testifying in Combs' federal trial as one of his alleged victims. Their legal battle began in November 2023 when Cassie filed a civil lawsuit against Combs, claiming rape and years of physical abuse. Cassie will testify about her decade-long abusive relationship with Combs. The mogul owned the Bad Boy record label she was signed to. Central to the prosecution's case is a 2016 surveillance video obtained exclusively by CNN. Combs struck and kicked Cassie as he dragged her down a hotel hallway in Los Angeles.
The first witness today got in the video of Cassie being beaten that many jurors have said that they had seen. I think it was important to get that in, and that is now in evidence.
Combs also allegedly forced Cassie to participate in freak-offs, drug-fueled parties involving male sex workers, without consent. In court, Combs' defense lawyer, Tenny Garagos, said domestic violence is illegal, but not what Combs is charged with in this case.
I'm Aisha Bagshi, USA Today's Justice Department correspondent. I'm standing outside the Manhattan Federal Courthouse where we just finished day 3 of witness testimony in the criminal trial against Sean Combs. We heard again from Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. She really talked today about what she had to say when it came to physical abuse in their relationship. She said that Sean Combs physically abused her for many years. It started pretty early into their relationship. And the jury saw photos of what she said were injuries from some of those incidents. She described in 2018 when their relationship ended, in that same year, she said that he raped her. And then she described the aftermath, the time period when she was with her current husband. And she described needing to go to rehab and trauma therapy at a certain point. And she described as part of that trauma therapy, she was writing a book to kind of go through her experiences. She said that she wanted Sean Combs to read that book so that he would understand what she went through. She said that she had a lawyer reach out to Sean Combs, wanting him to both read the book and to compensate her. When he didn't get back to her, she filed a lawsuit. We learned today that lawsuit has been public knowledge for a long time, but we learned today that it was settled for $20 million. So testimony ended on a very heavy note. Cassie even cried during testimony about talking to her husband about not wanting to be alive anymore. We'll start with cross-examination tomorrow. It's easy to imagine that many of the details that she shared in her testimony this week will be seared in the minds of jurors for weeks to come.
The nearly week-long testimony of Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura Fine, was graphic and full of disturbing details of alleged physical and sexual abuse. The former R&B singer's testimony is so key to the case, it may determine whether Sean Diddy Combs is found guilty or not in his federal sex trafficking case. Here is what we know now. What are the strongest points Cassie made for the prosecution?
To prove sex trafficking, prosecutors have to show that he used force, fraud, or coercion. And Cassie Ventura talked about being beaten by Sean Combs, being lied to, and being threatened with the release of freak-off videos. She said that those were things that took away her agency in the relationship.
How has the defense tried to portray Cassie?
The defense has portrayed Cassie as someone who chose to be in a relationship with Sean Combs, knowing what his sexual preferences are. And the other point that the defense has tried to make is that she could be in it for the money. They've highlighted that she got a $20 million financial settlement after suing Sean Combs.
How is Combs' legal team addressing past allegations of abuse?
The defense team said in its opening statement that Sean Combs engaged in domestic violence, but not sex trafficking. It's basically a way for the defense to say that Sean Combs is facing the wrong charges, and for that reason, he's not guilty. Hi, I'm Aisha Bagchi, USA Today's Justice Department correspondent. I'm outside the Manhattan Federal Courthouse right now, where we just wrapped up Day 6 of witness testimony in the criminal trial against Sean Combs. Today, we started the day with more testimony from Don Richard, who is a singer and belonged to Sean Combs' Bad Boy Records. It was kind of the opportunity for Sean Combs' defense team to ask her questions that were designed to call into question whether some of her stories have changed over time. For example, Don Richard talked about witnessing Sean Combs attack Cassie Ventura with a skillet when she had been making him eggs. And after that incident, Don Richard testified that Sean Combs had said, "Where he comes from, people go missing," and that she took that as a threat on her life if she talked about what she had seen. The defense on cross-examination said that you've met with the government several times, but you only mentioned that line from Sean Combs in the very last time that you met with the government before you're testifying today. And they also pointed out that she has a civil lawsuit against him and suggested that maybe she's testifying the way she is because of money.
Hi, this is Josh Meyer from USA Today reporting from the courthouse here in the third week of the Sean Combs trial. Very dramatic testimony today from Capricorn Clark, who was Diddy's personal assistant for 12 years on and off. She broke down on the stand many times, crying and sometimes sobbing about how she tried to intervene when Combs was beating and kicking Cassie Ventura after he discovered that she was having an affair with Kid Cudi. And on cross-examination, she was really grilled about why she kept coming back to work for Combs if she thought he was somebody that violent. She also testified that he kidnapped her, meaning Clark, at gunpoint and made her go with him to a confrontation at Cudi's house after he found out about the affair. One of the things that she said is she wanted to keep coming back and work for him because she wanted her life back. She said that she had no family, her parents had both died, she had one son who is a nonverbal autistic child, and that she really has no family, and she considered Combs and Bad Boy Records and Cassie and the other parts of the entourage her family, and she really wanted to get back in their good graces. This is Thursday, and today the witness was Mia, which is the pseudonym for a former employee of Combs who was a personal assistant who worked for him from 2009 to 2017. She detailed a lot of incidents where Combs was very violent to Cassie, at one point throwing her head against a bed, had blood gushing from a cut above her eye, and Mia and another employee jumped on Combs' back to try to get him off of her, and she described how Combs threw her against the wall. She also described some cases of sexual assault against herself, against Mia, including one case where she woke up in her bedroom in Combs' house to find him on top of her, and he proceeded to take his pants off and raped her, she says. But she said that she was afraid to speak up, that Combs had so much power over her, and that he could ruin her career and even threaten her safety.
I am outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where we have just heard another day of testimony in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The most interesting witness today was Eddie Garcia, who was a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel. He talked about being paid $100,000 in cash by Sean Combs to make that video of Cassie being beaten in the hotel hallway go away. He got a phone call, he says, and a personal visit in the lobby from Christina Karam, who was Combs's chief of staff at the time, saying that he really wanted that video. Finally, he talked to Combs directly. Combs said he would be willing to take care of anyone who would give him a copy of the video and make sure that that was the only copy. He said Combs requested their IDs and that he had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I am standing outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where we have spent several hours now hearing from a friend of Cassie's named Brianna Bondlin. And she talked about a lot of drugs that she and Cassie used to do together on an almost daily basis. She also talked about this incident in September of 2016, where she says Sean Combs held her off of the 17th floor balcony at Cassie's apartment. She heard banging at the door and somehow Combs got inside. She says she was looking out at the scenery. Combs came up behind her, put his hands under her arms, grabbed her breasts briefly, and then picked her up by the armpits and held her up over the balcony. She said finally he brought her back onto the balcony and threw her into some patio furniture violently. She did, however, insist that the incident happened, despite the defense attorney's implications that maybe she and Cassie just got together and made up a story. I am standing outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where we have just spent another day listening to testimony from one of Sean Combs' ex-girlfriends who is testifying under the pseudonym Jane. Jane talked about how when she read the lawsuit filed by Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, she was just stunned. And she said the 3 pages of that lawsuit where Cassie talked about the freak-offs, Jane felt like she was reading her own story. Jane talked about a terrible argument that she and Combs had in June of 2024. She was concerned that he had been seeing another woman who was about 25 years younger than he was, and she called him a pedophile. They got in a huge fight. She said he kicked her as she was trying to run out of the house, and she fell, and he picked her up by putting a chokehold around her throat. The prosecution asked how did she feel about him now, and she said that she is praying for him. I'm standing outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, and there was a lot of buzz this morning during the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Kanye West came into the courthouse today, stayed in the same security line as everyone else, was just there to watch and allegedly to support Diddy, who he is still close to and who he has shown public support for. Kanye was wearing all white and was not allowed into the main courtroom, so he ended up briefly in one of the overflow courtrooms, but it was determined that there probably wasn't enough security for him to stay there, so he left. He was only in the building for about a half an hour. The other interesting development today is that the judge said he is leaning toward removing one of the jurors. This is a juror that we've heard a lot about this week, juror number 6. And apparently juror number 6 told many inconsistent statements about where he lived. And it really just gave the judge pause about whether this juror number 6 had any ulterior motives for why he wanted to be on the jury.
Hi, this is Josh Meyer from USA Today, reporting from the 6th week of the Sean Diddy Combs trial at the federal courthouse here in Manhattan. Some big news this morning. The judge kicked off one of the jurors. The prosecution alleged that he may or may not live in New Jersey instead of New York. The judge agreed that there was some question about his truthfulness, so he's off the jury. There's going to be an alternate. Much of the testimony today was from a paralegal from the U.S. Attorney's Office going over the evidence, allegedly tying Christina Karam, who was one of Diddy's closest assistants, once described as his right-hand person, to some of the alleged crimes, including making plans for some freak-offs at hotels and also helping get drugs for Diddy from a drug dealer named Guido. But there is some more indications that the prosecution is really trying to close the loop and show that Christina Curran was aiding and abetting Diddy in some of his illegal activity that makes up the racketeering case. She has vehemently denied any wrongdoing, but has not testified in the case.
Hi, I'm outside the Manhattan Federal Courthouse, where we just wrapped up another day of testimony in the Diddy criminal trial. Today we heard testimony from a Homeland Security agent that really focused on digital evidence and paper trails. Jurors were shown a series of video clips of sexually explicit content. These video clips weren't shown to the public, they weren't shown to the media, so we don't really know what they involved, but presumably they were clips of freak-offs. The jurors were also shown messages involving Sean Diddy Combs, in which he appeared to be directing arrangements for escorts to travel across states sometimes, and for hotels to be supplied for freak-offs. The defense started cross-examination where they showed their own video clips. Again, we weren't able to see those. The best guess I can give you of what it might involve is maybe showing clips that jurors didn't get to see, in which maybe Sean Combs wasn't so involved in directing what happened in freak-offs. Tomorrow we are expecting both sides to actually rest their cases. So we are nearing the end of this criminal trial. On Wednesday, we're going to have a discussion just with the lawyers and the judge about jury instructions, and then we expect closing arguments to start on Thursday. It's even possible that the jury could get this case and start deliberating by Friday. Hi, I'm outside the Manhattan Federal Courthouse, where we just heard the defense's closing argument and the prosecution's response in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial. Mark Ignifilo, a lawyer for Sean Combs, started the day by trying to humanize his client. He pointed out Sean Combs' children and mother sitting in the audience to jurors, and he characterized Sean Combs as a successful black entrepreneur. Mark Ignifilo did address the now infamous assault video, the Intercontinental Hotel assault video where Sean Combs attacked Cassie Ventura. He said that there's evidence in that video to suggest that maybe Sean Combs only wanted to get a phone back, and maybe it could be his phone. He pointed out that after Sean Combs threw her to the ground and dragged her in the direction of the hotel where a freak-off was going on, he took her things back to the hotel room and then came back and took a phone from her. Prosecutor Maureen Comey delivered the response to that closing argument. She pointed out some testimony that jurors heard when it comes to that assault video involving Cassie, that a hotel security guard said that Cassie said multiple times, "I want my phone back, I want my phone back," and basically said that that video shows that Sean Combs was trying to prevent Cassie Ventura from leaving because in his mind the freak-off wasn't finished. It's evidence of sex trafficking. On Monday we're going to hear instructions from the judge to the jury about the law in this case, and then they're going to start their deliberations.